look, as Brett said, my name is Stephen Miller. I am really excited to be moderating this panel, but you're not here for me, you're here for them. So allow me to just give them a little bit of a glow up so that you can, of course, get to know them. So to set the stage for you, you may know her by post-WOOK or Natasha Chomko, but today, I think we're going to lean a little bit in and call her the astronomer's daughter, right? Natasha's a visionary artist whose vibrant collage work has placed her amongst the greats in our ecosystem and beyond. Her incredibly refined style is known for challenging perception by combining landscape photographs from literally all around the world. And the entire purpose is demonstrating how interconnected we all are. She's worked with the likes of Adobe, Club Med, Sony, and Toyota, but that is just scratching the surface. But we're also joined by the astronomer himself, Eric Chomko. Or if you prefer, Papa WOOK, okay? Eric is a seasoned software engineer whose career working for NASA spans several decades. Most recently, working as a principal engineer at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland. So there you have it, right? The astronomer and the astronomer's daughter, the latter of which is exactly what we're here to talk about today. So let's go ahead and dive on in, shall we? Natasha, in your own words, tell our audience a little bit about how your landmark collection on Bitcoin, the astronomer's daughter, came to be.
How it came to be?
Yeah.
Oh man, I mean, so as you can see, it's pretty awesome to be on a panel right now, and like you can physically see my work on the wall, so it makes it a little easy to kind of demonstrate like what I do. But I wanted to create a collection, like a body of work that really just like honored the relationship I have with my dad, because he's helped me before with just like, I'll call him randomly and just be like, hey, like I need an idea, like can you help me kind of think through this? And I wanted to do something that was like that concept, but a little bit more long form. So kind of what ended up coming up was I was like, I'm going to create a collection of work that uses satellite data, and it tracks the exact date of like what happened in space in my art style. So it's like you look at a specific date, like November 8th, 2009, and you can see specifically what happened in space that day if you know what you're looking for. And I just wanted to kind of like make satellite data and art kind of have this like culmination, because that's what we do, and I wanted to honor that kind of relationship.
Yeah, no, that honestly, it's an incredible story that you guys have woven into the collection, and it tells, honestly, the story of the cosmos in a really great way, at least from where I sit. But Eric, what was going through your mind when Natasha first had told you her vision for this collection? What were you thinking and feeling?
I honestly didn't know. I really didn't know what to expect with it, but I helped her with what I knew about astronomy. Yeah. Where do we go with that?
What did I ask you?
Yeah, you asked me about Alpha Centauri. You think that was the...
Oh, yeah. So the first thing, was the Alpha Centauri in like 2022.
Right.
So I remember, I feel like I called you and I was like, what is Alpha Centauri? Like, what is it about? Tell me about it.
It's a double star system, triple actually, with the two stars and then Proxima Centauri orbits that. And you said, describe it more, and
No, but that was perfect because I didn't realize, I thought it was two stars, not three, and I actually made the piece from the perspective of the third one, and I wouldn't have been able to do that without you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks. That part I didn't know, but that was the start of it. Yeah, Alpha Centauri was definitely the beginning of the relationship we have. I had no idea that this would go to NFTs, blockchain technology, and beyond. I mean, it was all the static art that we had been working with at that time.
Yeah.
But the crypto stuff took off afterward, right?
I was doing it before, but I just didn't tell you that's what it was.
Okay, well, I mean, first time I'd kind of, we were in Brooklyn. You were at, what was that?
Yeah.
That event was
that
NYC.
was NFT NYC in 2022, and you came in like a day late, and then you saw some of the people and some of the stuff we were working on.
Yeah, but I ran into a guy in the concierge at the Marriott who explained to me NYC NFT, and he told me all about what NFTs were. So that was, my daughter's into that. He's here for that? I said, yeah, she's here for that. And it immediately bonded with that guy, and we're still in touch. And anyway, that helped, with me understanding where her art was going. Right?
No, and look, I think it's a really great way to set the stage here, right? It really does set things up the right way. But Natasha, whether it's been subliminal or specified, going back to, even 2022 and prior, it's pretty clearly, like, your dad's work at NASA has been a thread of inspiration, so to speak, within your work. Do you, by chance, have any other examples that stand out to you where patrons might be able to see his influence today within your work?
Yeah, I mean, I think like the first thing, just from the very beginning, I grew up going to spaceflight centers. I grew up like experiencing really cool space-related things, and then when I started making art, I was like, well, what am I going to make art about? And it became very clear to me, well, it would make a lot of sense to make art based on the memories that I have from my childhood, and some of my best memories were going to spaceflight centers and, you know, meeting astronauts and eating, you know, the astronaut ice cream, which is really just dehydrated ice cream and stuff like that, you know, and I think that I was like, that was really the start of it. And then I started making this space-based art, and people really took a liking to it. I like making it. And then I think it was in 2022 when I really started making more of the, like, what's the word, like, conceptual and, like, really, it was less subconsciously influenced and more consciously influenced. And then that's when the Alpha Centauri piece came. So really what that was is, in 2022, Alpha Centauri Kid, the artist, he contacted me and was like, if you make a piece with Alpha Centauri in it, I'll buy it. And I was like, sweet. I mean, that works. That's when I called my dad, what is Alpha Centauri? We had that conversation. Really liked the way that that flowed. And then a few months later, I did a collection called As Above, So Below on Nifty Gateway, where I spoke to a geologist and a marine biologist, and then someone about space, who was my dad. And the space one was so, I mean, they all were great, but for the context of this conversation, the space one was great because I got a chance to just ask him, like, what are some things about space that you think are cool that you wish more people knew about? And then I made art based on those things. One of them was like a comet. The other one was like a specific nebula, I want to say. And then there was the moon, obviously. And then I think the last one was an ode to Chesney Bonstall, which is a like sci-fi kind of artist from like the 80s. And that was like a really cool thing to do. And then I was like, I want to dig deeper into this, right? So then I dug even deeper, and that's when I called him and was like, I want to do something with satellite data. Like, I was like, I don't want to just hear about what you think is cool. I want to use the things that you've actually worked on and make art based on that. So it took an evolution over the course of a few years.
Well, yeah, I mean, it like most things, right, within art, artists go through these evolutions, and Eric, you've been able to see that all the way along, you know, from the early days of starting to understand NFTs to now and seeing how that art's changed. But hearing that and knowing that you've made such a profound impact on Natasha's work, I'm sure like any parent, you're proud, of course. But
Absolutely.
But I also imagine you've got a number of memories that could like rush back to you at any given moment from her childhood. And while at any given moment I would love to just embarrass Natasha on stage in front of all of our peers, do you recall any one particular memory from her youth that kind of paved the way to this moment here?
Well, first off, Chesney Bonestell is from the 50s. So
Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes way back. He's a great artist, and I see his influence in your art. She got exposed to that at a young age with that. I just love Chesney Bonestell. But as far as computers go and early child development, Natasha was in front of a Macintosh 2. Actually, I have a picture here of her there in front of that computer, which I think I still have.
The computer. He has the photo with him.
Yeah,
so
I
he still
collect
has
vintage.
the computer.
Yeah, post it. Okay, I heard that sounds good. But yeah, it was several programs. One memorable one is one called Baby Smash, and this program, a child would smack the keyboard and a random sound would come out, and a random color inside of a random shape on the screen. And she would watch that and hit the key again and got really excited, and all of a sudden she'd like, bang, bang, bang. You know, the music didn't come out, but the sounds and all the colors did, so she really, really appreciated it. But given it was random, she was just having fun seeing the color, seeing the shape, and hearing the sound. And that was the beginning. She always wanted to see another program after that. That was when the doors were open and she just, fell in love with the computer.
It's wild, like, from so many different reasons. Like, yes, I can still remember, like, back to even in my youth when I started to get introduced to, like, certain programs like that, and how it can have an impact on a child's creativity. But what's hysterical is if you really look at it, like, how far we've come since then, and we've landed on Baby Shark, of all things, right?
Right.
No, it's really interesting. But to me, it's wild that something like Baby Smash on a Mac 2 could have been so formative. Can you point to like any part of your work, Natasha, whether on Bitcoin or outside of it, that almost directly preserves that part of your history? I mean, specifically like with Baby Smash, like and how it may tie into like the Astronomer's Daughter, for example.
Well, what I find so interesting is like, and I didn't even know this until we were talking about it, is that Baby Smash is mostly in a red, white, and black, which is funny because those are actually my brand colors, which I didn't really think about until you said it, and I was like, yeah, like those are the colors I like the most, like DA0AD21, that's the red hex code, black and white, like those are my colors, and for some reason, I don't know, I mean, maybe that's connected to Baby Smash.
But is black and white 0 and the other one F's?
It's like
Zeros
a little
and
off
F's? Okay.
black and
Yeah,
off
I think
white.
I discovered that a long time ago. But anyway.
But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
But yeah, like my brand colors.
So
I mean,
you work
even this right here, it's like mostly red, black, and white because like these are my brand colors.
So you work with a 24-bit color scheme in hex? I think that's what it is. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, but like the thing that she's working with, and this is the part that I found really funny from our earlier conversations, is that with that black, red, and white color scheme, it also goes back to the fact that, you know, as you had educated me, children, when they're really in adolescence, like they're sort of like their very early infancy.
Infancy, correct.
Like,
yeah, infants can only see red, black, and white. And I learned that, and I think that program predated Baby Smash. Yeah, I think that program predated Baby Smash, where your head was watching the ball move and so on. So then Baby Smash came after that when you had the dexterity to smack the keyboard. But yeah.
We love fine motor skills.
I was going to say, really underneath it all, that's what this panel is about, right? But Natasha, there's also a really interesting tie-in because with the picture that we were referring to, like you also built it into your parent, right? And I'm not saying into your father, I mean into your parent inscription. So I guess why was that so important to like bake that in with this collection in particular? Was that just a very core and formative memory that backed this up, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, I think when I think about like the beginnings of my relationship with my dad, I think about sitting in my like family room on the computer with him and like making that image the image that became the parent for this entire collection. Just felt very right. I don't know how else to say it. Like it was just like this, what else could be the parent besides like the memories that literally planted the seeds of all of this. And it's funny because I actually went back to that house a few weeks ago and I was like, wow, yeah, I remember sitting right here and this is where it happened. And it's like, I still remember just what that felt like. And it was really, really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that a lot of nostalgia was flooding through you at that point. And when you have those moments, obviously it's a great reflection point, especially given the fact that, you know, we're here today looking at that, but also looking at your art being shown, not just here, but like also at the Bitcoin conference. And to everybody here that if you have a B25 ticket, definitely take some time to go visit that gallery because they did a phenomenal job showcasing the work there. But to bring us back on course here, one of the other things that makes this collection really interesting to me is the fact that you've built in what is effectively highly complex data, right? And within the collection, with what you had to inscribe to be able to make this collection come to life, we talk a lot about the blockchain being a single point of truth. How exactly do you guys think that the process that you took with validating the data that you brought into your works ultimately can be seen as a point of truth? Like, do you think there is a way of viewing it from that perspective?
I mean, I think that like the data, at least in the Astronomer's Daughter, is all retrospective. So it was pretty easy to be like, okay, you know, on March 5th, 2012, this is what happened. The sky was in Leo, or like the moon went through the constellation of Leo, which makes the sky in the piece like a golden color, because that's the one that I decided to use for the constellation of Leo. But it's just, I mean, it was pretty easy to verify, right? So I think that like with that, the data is the truth because the data, I mean, it's just completely immutable. Like you can't change it because it's already happened, right? So it was being able to kind of like, I don't want to say play it safe, but being able to use the data in a retrospective way. It was a cool way to kind of like give a like timepiece essentially of what happened on that day specifically for like the just perspective of kind of like what it looked like. And then say to myself, like, yeah, this is what it looked like, you know. And what's cool is for this digital auction, for the piece that's currently on auction for this collection, there's a bidder's reward. And the bidder's reward is also all retrospective, but it's before SATs even existed, and I got to like kind of put one together for the day I was born, right? The day that my parents got married, like, and that was really cool too, because it's like then you get to see these like other important days from pre-Bitcoin and how they kind of play into it as well. And it's just like the algorithm, if you will, that I kind of created to make all of this, like lives on through the work continuously. Through the data, because the data is like the anchor point of like what makes all of this, I don't want to say legitimate, but it's what makes it all relevant. It's what pulls it all, it's what anchors it to reality, you know?
But I mean, what's more, like the interesting thing to me is you have this complex data, it's available out there. Like a lot of these incredible data sets, they're very much so public. They're public domain, but it would take an expert to properly interpret them.
Yes. Okay, so that is interesting. But the one thing I want to say to that is people don't even check the chain. So they're not going to, you know, like, when it comes to like the elbow grease of like interpreting data, it's like, of course. But a lot of the data is there. A lot of people just don't know what to do with it. And I think that when it comes to like putting together the data and like how to do it, I mean, we talked about that for the timekeeper a little bit. We talked about the timekeeper. So the timekeeper was a one-of-one I made that it changes every single day. Instead of being retrospective, it changes every single day for the future until the last Bitcoin is mined in 2140, using the same traits as the Astronomer's Daughter, but it's like a fully, you know, like in the future thing. And that one required a lot more data because that was like, I think I called you and I was like, how do I interpret ephemera data? Like, can you help me? Like, and it was just, I mean, that was tough, right? Because it's like, you're looking at like 40,000 plus lines of data. Like, that is an insane amount. And I think for that, you know, it really just comes down to like using the right people. Honestly, for me, it was like a little bit of vibe coding, trying to figure it out. But that was cool. I mean, it wasn't like, I feel like being able to use that data, it felt like kind of wielding fire in a way, because it's just like, this is almost uncontrollable in the sense that like most people wouldn't know what to do with this. But if you can capture it, it's like a really cool way to kind of like harness the element that it is, you know?
I mean, it is a really interesting way of looking at it. But Eric, the thing that I want to turn to you on here is, even though this information is public, you know, public domain at a certain level,
right,
and you have to interpret it to be able to get down to this level, what ultimately are you thinking from your own perspective of seeing some of this data go on chain? And in theory, not everybody has, you know, Eric Chomko as their father interpreting complex data like that. What do you think about like the prospect of some of this potentially being put on chain and it being corrupted or it being misinterpreted?
Well, I think initially when she explained to me what a Satoshi was and that there's a time factor with that as the smallest piece of metadata that you have in the chain, that's where the timekeeper aspect came in. Just like tie those things to astronomical phenomena, right? So find all this is time metadata embedded inside the Satoshi allocation. So she did that, and I think that was cool because it tied to astronomical events. So you got the metadata of the Satoshi working with the astronomical events. What was that? Heavens Above.
I used Heavens Above, I used Time and Date, I used the JPL ephemera system.
JPL,
I used a lot of different data sets.
JPL has all that stuff. It's really good. It's accurate. And you know, you know where to look with a telescope based upon what they're saying, and that's what you're talking about with truth. When that time gets there, you look up there as long as it's clear, right? And you see that, in our case, we were in Arkansas, and we saw the eclipse.
Oh yeah, that was so cool because the piece in the collection that is the total solar eclipse is the photo that I took when we were together, which is a pretty cool little fun fact. I don't even know if I've told you that.
Yeah, so you have told me that, and if memory serves, a mutual friend of ours owns that piece, and I'm still hunting him down to try and get it. No, like it really is a very special collection, and I truly invite everybody here to try and spend some time with it, get familiar with the work. But beyond that, there is you mentioned the timekeeper, but there's also another piece of work that's out there that is, you know, some people are in the know, they know what's going on. Would you mind telling us a little bit about, you know, what you might be able to look forward to if you're participating in the auction that's ongoing right now?
Yeah, so I think like the auction itself is of one of the pieces that I intentionally held back from the Astronomer's Daughter. It is a summer solstice piece, which is like one of the more rare pieces in the collection. And for the winner of the auction will receive that piece, which is June 22nd, 2011, but then there's also a bidder's reward. So everyone who bids on it will receive a unique bidder's reward for their participation, which is what I was saying before, which is like this kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's like, it's got like a different shape. It doesn't look just like the Astronomer's Daughter. It's kind of more of like a memento, but it uses dates from before the first Bitcoin was mined, or I guess I should say from when the internet was publicly available in 1991 all the way until the first Bitcoin was mined in like 2009. I want to say it was like early January 2009. So that's what those are for. So they're not directly tied to sats the way the Astronomer's Daughter is, but they are tied to dates that are relevant to the internet's history and just like some of my friends. You know, I like hit up some of my friends and was just like, hey, like, do you have any dates that are important to you? So I like included those in there as well, just because I think it's important to have that. But I think that, you know, that is a cool way to use like an on-chain auction, just because it's like I can airdrop these to the bidders like immediately. It's like I already know who's already bid on this and I can just airdrop it directly to them. So it's a really cool way to use an on-chain auction. And then I also have 5 physical pieces from the Astronomer's Daughter, other pieces that I held back in the Bitcoin conference gallery that have physical pieces attached to them. Because this collection used recursion, so I wanted to create something that like individually printed all of the different trait layers onto different pieces of acrylic, and then those became the physical pieces that are offered. So if you want, you could take home a physical piece and an ordinal, obviously, from the gallery itself. And I will say the price is currently below the floor. So you get a physical and you get a digital for below the floor price. There's not a better deal you can find.
I was going to say, and I was at Ross on the Strip this morning, and I can tell you that is a much better deal than any of the clothes I saw there. Let me just say, it's been an absolute pleasure getting the chance to speak with you guys about the collection today. Just 2 very, very quick final questions. Natasha, we mentioned the auction. Where can people, I guess, best see those auction details?
Megalith.art. Oh, and I forgot to mention, if you want to see my work outside of this space, you can just look at the motherfucking sphere, because my work is on the sphere. No
I
one
was
else
going to say,
in
let's give it up for that, yeah?
I am very grateful to be one of like 25 artists in the entire world that can say their art is on the sphere. But yeah, you can find me like anywhere on the internet with my name, PostWOOK. I spent a lot of money trademarking that name, so you can find me there. But yeah, the auctions at megalith.art, the physical pieces are at scarce.city, and I'm here looking like a green candle if you want to come talk to me.
Beautiful. And Eric, my final little question for you is, after this, are you okay if all of these wonderful members of our audience come up to you and ask you all about aliens?
Yeah, no problem. Any question about space, aliens, computer software, development, whatever, anything.
Embarrassing stories about my childhood.
Yeah, that too.
Perfect. Well,
I prefer post-WOOK Dad, by the way.
Okay, post-WOOK Dad over Papa WOOK.
There you go.
We'll lean in. Thank you guys so much. Please give it up for post-WOOK and Eric Chomko.
Thank you.